And a very good morning, chaps. It's Tuesday, and as you can see, I have skimmed the ceiling. I got it yesterday afternoon. I didn't bother filming that. You've seen me skimming 1,000,001 times. So, yeah, apologies for not doing it, if you did want to see it. Right, what are we on with today? Well, we've got the wall at the back of me here, bottom end of it, under the windowsill, is damp. And there's only one reason that'll be damp, because this building actually has a cavity. It's got a good 50mm cavity. And the only reason we're getting damp in there is if something is bridging the cavity. Well, I suggested to the client that it's probably the stone windowsill coming through and touching on the inside. And that's allowing water to come and soak through to the inside plasterwork. I stripped it all down, had a look, and yes, that's exactly what it was. So I'm going to show you today how I go about remedying this particular little problem without the aid of injections and chemicals and God knows what else. It's a simple way of doing it, and it actually cures the problem rather than just hides it. Right, so this is the wall in question. So you can see at the back there is a massive brick and stone, and kind of underneath it there, which you probably can't see, is the cavity. So it's just that bit there that's causing the issues. So I've obviously pre-taken the brickwork down. So what I propose to do is I'm going to put a membrane onto this, a piece of 8-inch DPC, and fix it in place so that any moisture can't track through and touch the inside wall here. Now from that level downwards is a good 50mm cavity, and it's clear. So there's no reason that it's getting damping apart from that. So that's what we're gonna rectify today. Right, so I thought I brought some 8-inch DPC with me, and I haven't. Well, not to worry, because I can just double wrap this. Now, for those that aren't in the know, DPC, that's your damp-proof course, and it's what you'd lay that way on for your damp course. But we're gonna put it on there like so, which again will stop the damp coming through. Right, so I've just been searching for the Stanley knife and noticed it was right next to me anyway. So this stuff, you just cut it with your Stanley knife or that kind of thing. So we'll just whip a big piece off to start with. I'm not gonna bother measuring it, because I can tuck it into the sides as well, you see. Get it right into there. Stop anything coming through the side. And run it through to that end there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use, excuse me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some clout nails and tack it into the joints. Now, eventually those clout nails will probably rot out. However, it's only to hold it while I get the wall back up, because once the wall's up and touching on that can't drop down anyway. Simple. Now making sure that it's going right up and covering all that stone. Again, just put a tack in at this end just to hold it up, because it will fall down otherwise. And then I'll be cursing it. Right. We'll see if we can get one in the middle. Drop it down a bit. Oh. So it's rather chilly this morning, but by the time you start watching this video, I'll probably be in a nice warm environment in another part of the world. I'm only actually nipping out to Spain for a few days. I've got other family commitments too. I want to go and see my granddaughters, etc. So just going to spend a little bit of time with my dad just to make sure he's okay, and then back to good old blighty, cold, wet, and horrible Britain. Are you allowed to say that anymore? Probably not. Right, that nail was non-successful, it fell out. So I'll try again here. Now you see, you could say it's an eco-friendly way of doing this, but if you think about it logically, if we were building this today and using this particular method of the stone coming into the inside skin, we'd just be putting a membrane there. You know, so it's fine the way they've done it. It's just that they haven't put a membrane in because. For one, they didn't have plastic back then, and for two, they didn't seem to bother. You know, it was all plastered up with lime, and of course your lime is going to let any moisture evaporate through and dissipate into the building. Cut that off there. There we go. Right, so that stone's now covered up nicely. And just as an extra measure, it probably doesn't need it, but I'm going to run a piece along the bottom there and just lip it up. And then we're double sure that nothing's going to come through. You know, I mean, we're talking virtually no money at all for the stuff, aren't we? So let's put plenty in there and make it right. But if this was a damp-proof company in doing this job, they'd probably be saying, oh, well, we'll take all the plaster off and then we'll tank all the brickwork and that'll sort it out. Well, it hasn't sorted it out. All it's done is just kept it in those bricks. On the wall, it's not stopped the problem. Whereas this will stop the problem. There we go. Still now like that. Underneath you go. Away up. I don't want to stay on that end. The joint isn't all that good there. It'll be okay once we've got the brickwork going in, because that'll hold it up. Now, if we were going to go with like for like, we'd be using a lime mortar. However, on this particular bit here, we're not going to bother with the old lime. We're just going to do it with a sand and cement with a bit of waterproofer in it. I don't think we're going to have any issues with salts coming through because I've removed the brickwork that was wet and we're replacing that, so there shouldn't be a problem at all there. Okay, so that's pretty much now damp-proofed. You know, it's cost pennies and simple to do. You know, we're not introducing chemical into it. We're just putting a piece of plastic there, which stops any water coming this way. And that's how you can stop penetration from your stone to the inside skin. It's quite simple. Now, it's probably worth noting, trying to get you a decent shot there, that the DPC, I put that on first, that over the top of it, and then the one that we kind of like made into an L shape is pushed back, and that the back edge of that is in the cavity. And the reason for it is, it'll condensate behind this, so any water that drips down will go onto the bottom piece and disappear into the cavity. So it's acting like a bit of a cavity tray kind of thing. Just thought I'd mention that, and then if you are having a go, you don't bugger it up. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, I'm going to lay the brick on edge, because obviously it's thinner on edge. If I was to lay them the correct way, they're not going to fit on there because of the stuff that's coming through, the stone, etc. Right, so we start off, run a bed out. Now this is a normal cement-based mortar, Portland cement, and I've mixed it. It's I'd say probably 4:1 ratio, and it's actually a fine plastering sand and cement. Excuse me. I have also put in some waterproofer, just as a secondary measure. Doesn't need it as such for laying the bricks, but I just wanted to make sure that we've covered all bases with it. Right, now because that there is a 3/4, we'll start with a piece at that end there. Now you'll note that they don't line up with these. Well, that's fine, that's done purposely. And of course, we don't have a string line with us. You think you've got everything you need to do the job, and then you realise that half the stuff you do need you haven't got. So I'll get a few down, I'll just check it with the old level, just to make sure that they're in line. Doesn't matter too much because they are going to be plastered, so as long as there's something like near, it'll do us. And as you can see, their bricks are now tight up to that DPC that we've put in there. So it's not going to drop, but also we can't get any moisture coming through, which is what we're trying to achieve. It's up and down everywhere, this wall anyway, so we're not too bothered. Not too bothered at all. To end up later today, we covered up, you'll never see it for donkey's years, if ever again. Blow on that one. Right. So I don't think we're going to get full bricks in that top there, but I do have some like split bricks, etc. down here, so this is why my lath hammer is always blunt. Yeah, that'll do nicely. Right, get the bed on again. Not as easy to get in this time. mean, you can use this method of putting in a membrane for all sorts of reasons. You know, you don't just have to do it because it's a stone windowsill or something like that coming through. You know, if you were wanting to replace a bit of brickwork, for example, in a basement, and you've got a damp patch, you know, you can always put a bit of something in there and then lay your bricks. Anything to stop the moisture tracking through inside. Because that moisture that's in that stone now, although it has been painted, which it shouldn't be, you know, if it wasn't painted, what would happen is the moisture that's in it now can get out that way from the outside. You know, we're not causing that to rot any. Right, so we've got a bit of heat up there. Let's see what we can do with these little things here. Trying to make sure you can see what I'm doing at the same time. So this is a thin one, so I'll chuck a bit of stuff on the back there as well. Filling out the back to make sure it's good and solid there. And there you go. That'll do. So like I say, it's gonna get a float coat over it next. So all that isn't going to be seen, you know, and so it doesn't need to be perfect. I know from experience these are sticking out ever so slightly, but I know from experience that they'll cover anyway, so we're not bothered. And the reason they're sticking out is because it's bang tight against that stone, and it means going and getting the cutter to cut the brick down to do it. So we're happy with that. But there you go, that's now damp proof. Quite simple. And it's probably taken about an hour from start to finish, which isn't bad. And no chemicals involved. And just out of interest for anybody that is interested, you see that there? Well, it's not a wire, it's a thin lead pipe. Now it's a gas pipe, or it was a gas pipe, and that leads up the wall there, and on the wall is a circle. And what that will have been is the gas pipe that fed the old gas light that was mounted there. There's also one on the chimney rest. So this room, when it was original, before the electricity came in, was lit with 2 gas lamps. Very interesting. Right, let's get a scratch coat on this. Okay, so we're going to hire a scratch coat onto this brickwork. Now, before you attempt any scratch coat, it doesn't matter what it is, if it's lime, if it's a lightweight like browning, bonding, if it's sand cement, get some water on it. It's the golden rule. Because if you don't, it's going to suck in virtually immediately, and that way you're not getting a key to the brickwork, or indeed the block work that is block. So always give it a wet, although concrete block, not too bad because they tend not to suck. Whereas your thermalite blocks will suck. So you want a lot of water on them, or even best is a bit of PVA or something to stop that suction, or SBR. You know, you don't need to go silly daft. We're not going to flood the building with it or anything daft like that. We're just taking the initial suction out of the brickwork. Whenever I'm doing a patch like this, what I prefer to do is put a scratch coat on it first, which I'll show you now for those that are not too sure what I'm talking about. So I'll put a scratch coat on it first and let it pull in, and then I'll put the top load on it. I just find it adheres to the brickwork better. You know, you get that first coat on. Right, so here's our stuff. I might have to wet it up a bit actually. It's a little bit on the dry side. Again, this has got a waterproofer in it, so when it's dried and ready for skimming, it shouldn't suck in theory. Yeah, it's a bit dry this. I've mixed it for laying the brick, so remember it is a plastering sand this as well. It's not a building sand. Is it okay to use plastering sand to lay brick? Well, yeah, it's fine. It's fine. It's a little coarser, but not by a lot. Won't take any harm. In fact, I tend to use it when I'm laying bricks with lime because it is a bit grittier than your building sand. Now this will get floated today, scratched up and then left until tomorrow when it will get skimmed. It's over skimming the whole room, so it can all be done in one hit on this wall tomorrow when it's dried in. Now, if it was lime, today we'd be putting on the scratch coat and then leaving that for a week. The whole week to dry out completely, and then we'd have to come back, give it a good saturation, and put the float coat on. I tend to leave that then for a day or two, then come back and put your finishing coat on. So it's with your Portland cement and sand, this will be ready for skimming tomorrow. Now, back when I was a nipper, learning how to drive a trowel on the new housing, this is how we did all the walls. the dot and dabbing back then. It was all float and set. Unless it was a partition wall, of course, and then it was board and skin. Same with the ceilings. But back in olden days, we floated everything. The only thing we used to dab, you could class it as dabbing, was a piece of board on top of the Catnic lintels, or say at the top, or on the face of the Catnic lintel. And we used to use, most of the time, a bit of bonding for that. I have seen lads do it with finish, but I always used to use a bit of bonding. Because we didn't have drywall. It didn't exist. Hadn't been invented. Straighten it up a little bit. Don't need to be too fussy because it's only a scratch coat. Of course, you put your scratch coats on fairly thin, which, like I said, it gets hold better, you know. Just tidying it up a bit now. So we're set back about, well, between 8 and 10 mil from the skirting. Filling up the top there. Big piece of wood in here, in my stuff. So, I would imagine that there's somebody out there watching the video that wants to know, could you use this method for rising damp? Well, the simple answer is, yeah, you could. Because what you'd actually do is, you put in what's known as a mechanical damp course. So you remove, say, a metre of brickwork at a time, run in some DPC, put your brickwork back in and pack it with slate, and keep doing that around the room. And then obviously you want to be going up at least a metre, hack it back to brick, and then float with the waterproof sand and cement. I mean, rising damp, it's a funny one. Is it real? Is it, you know, a lot of the time, we assume it's rising damp when it's actually mucking cavities or things like this stone sticking through. Very, very, very rarely is it actually water coming up from the ground into the building, or so I'm led to believe. Making sure it's all empty in there. Right, so we don't need to do any more with that now. we've got decent coverage. So we'll do the next step now. Right. So bear in mind, this is a scratch coat, okay? It's not the final coat. Now, if this was lime that we were using, we'd have introduced animal hair into it, goat or horse hair, into the mixture itself. We'd have applied it pretty much the same as we've just done there. But then we'd use one of these to scratch it up, and we do a triangular pattern like so with the old scratching tool. Now the scratching tool itself, it's made up of plaster mats. You can't buy them, you have to make them yourself. So that's how we'd be doing it right across the wall if it was lime. Okay, so now, say for example, this was the back of your house and you were going to cement render it. Well, you'd apply a scratch coat just like we've done, and then we get one of these, which is a cone, and you put all lines in like so. Now you've probably seen this in the past on buildings that are being rendered. That's like so. So what's it actually doing? Why are we putting those in there? Well, basically, it helps your next coat to adhere to the wall. Without it, it's not going to stick. With this, it'll become one sheet. If you didn't do the scratching, you've got two sheets and will separate over time. So we put our scratches in like so. So why the difference between the triangular pattern with that and the wavy pattern with that? Well, this one, as I said, is to help the next coat stick. This one is to help the next coat stick. Also, it helps with the shrinkage as the material dries, because lime's going to shrink a lot more than this as it starts to set in. There you go. So that's your scratch coat on. Now, it's kind of more or less real time, this video. You know, this is the odd little bit where I've gone to get that, for example, but the actual doing of the job is pretty much real time. So you can see how long it's taking to actually do a repair like this. Okay, so what's our next step? Well, to be quite honest with you, the next step would be to put the kettle on and get a cup of tea, because I need that to pull in a little bit now before I put on the float coat. And that's probably going to take it about 15-20 minutes. So I'll have a little break and have a cup of tea. And as you can see, the ceiling up there has come up lovely from what it was. So I would imagine the client would be quite happy with that, because it was in a hell of a state, that ceiling. Some bodge repairs on it and cracks everywhere, but it's all looking good now. So what we've got to do in this room is all of the walls. We've got to overskim all the walls before Friday, which, to be quite honest with you, I'll get prepped today, possibly get a wall on today as well, or a wall or two, and then by Thursday it'll all be completed, cleaned out, job done. Because I'm finishing Friday for my little Christmas break, which I think most of us will be doing. Right, let's get that brew. You see, what you've got to bear in mind with damp is there's always a cause. You know, we kind of take damp for granted. Now, if you can find out what's causing the damp in the first instant, you've got more of a chance of rectifying it properly. It's all good and well bringing up the damp-proof guys, and they come along and they slap a load of chemical into the masonry, it's not fixing the damp. It's hiding the damp, it's covering it up. But if you can get to the root of the problem, say for example, it's the ground level outside is too high, you've got a solid wall, no cavity, and it's painted and pointed as we've seen in the past with some of the jobs we've done. You know, there's multitudes of reasons as to why there's damp. And if you can get around that issue of why it's damp, you can then start putting right the wrongs that are causing the damp rather than covering it up with chemical. Right, okay chaps, the final stage now is to go over it with the old devil float and put a few scratches into it. As you can see, it's all nice and straight now, all the holes have been filled out, got a bit of a clean up and so on. So we're now ready for the old scratches. It's a bit big, this float, really, for doing this little area, but the other one's there on another job. And again, the scratches are there to help the final coat, the finishing coat, to adhere to what we've done. Nice and gently. Right, so so that's it from start to finish. So of course, if you were just doing this as a patch, you'd cut the edges back to take the finish. But as we're over skimming the whole wall, we won't be cutting the edges back, there's no need for it. In fact, it'd be more of a hindrance if we did. So that's pretty much it for this video. I hope it's helped somebody out there that's got this problem with the damp under the windows. It is quite a common problem and it's simple to rectify. You know, you can get your damp-proof guys in, they're just going to charge you £1,000 to do something like that, you know, to strip the plaster off, put a tanking agent onto it and float it and skim it. You know, you're into £1,000, aren't you? Whereas really for a couple of £100, it's done, you know, and it's actually done properly rather than just a chemical on top of the brick to stop the water coming into the plaster. We've stopped the water coming into the bricks now. You know, it's how it should have been done when the house was built, but they didn't build them that way then. There you go. So like I say, I hope it's helped somebody. If you've enjoyed that, don't forget, subscribe. And give us that jolly old thumbs up. And a happy Christmas to everybody out there. And we shall see you in the new year for another episode of buggering about with old buildings. Like I say, we'll be tackling the line plastering in the next video. So don't forget to look in for that one. Like I say, if you enjoyed it and you want to see that particular video, then subscribe. Thanks for watching. See you next time.